there was a lingering topic that I never got to finish last time. And that is the topic of how is it possible to have an enslaved soul, right? So I need to go into galactic history to explain this concept. I know I'm kind of totally switching gears, just priming you guys up, opening up the field so you guys can, see what I'm talking about here. So, we talk about, I was mentioning these interdimensional beings. We have inner earth beings. We have interdimensional beings that live on this plane, but just kind of like phased over a few degrees. We have, of course, the beings that we consider ETs. We have, lots and lots of non-corporeal in our reality beings that we interact with. Non-corporeal means you don't have a physical body like a biosuit like we do. And when we interact with these beings, there's these different concepts that get introduced into our sphere. And one of those concepts is that one, that this is a slave planet, but two, that there are soul groups that are considered to be enslaved soul groups. Okay. And people are like, how can that be? How is that possible? And so I'm going to talk about the mechanics of that, what that looks like and what the narratives look like. And then I also want to confirm for you guys that you can wake up if you feel like you're a part of a slave group, a slave soul group, because of whatever narrative you're resonating with. You can wake up out of that very easily now. It is not something that is this particular lifetime, this particular time frame during the changing of the cycles, the changing of the different ages, the changing of the different paradigms. We can wake up out of any soul group commitment that we might find ourselves in. So to name, I'm just going to give you some names of some very well-known enslaved soul groups. Okay. One of them being Alpha Centauri. The souls from Alpha Centauri, this is our nearest planet by our nearest stars, is considered a enslaved soul group. Why is it considered an enslaved soul group? Because they were invaded and conquered by a nefarious ET race, and those souls were captured through different Akashic structures and brought via technology to this plane, to this Pachamama realm, the realm of the mother, the earth mother. Okay. So what that did was it connected through the interdimensional planes, Alpha Centauri and the collective dynamics going on in that solar ring to our solar ring and to our realm. Okay. Another group that is considered or has been considered in the past as an enslaved group are certain Pleiadian soul groups. And a lot of people talk about them as being dark Pleiadians, but they're not all that way. And that is told to us through the story of the seven sisters. Okay. I'm just answering the question, guys, because it was asked. Okay. This is how my understanding is of it. There could be lots of different understandings and belief systems going on here. So I'm just giving you the what I see going on. And do remember that I see things in many, many nesting dolls creating realities. You can opt out of participating in a particular nesting doll, certain ones that have been incepted into our reality and still exist in this plane without that nesting doll of reality. So all sorts of incepted ideas and beliefs and all this stuff truly are optional. But you have to first discover how it's optional. You have to discover that on your own, or with a group, like with what we do with Lightbody, something like this, or in the dream realm, stuff like this. Anyway, let me keep going. So, and the story of the seven sisters is the seven sisters were relentlessly chased by, I believe, I might be wrong about the god, but I'm pretty sure it was the god Apollo. He lusted after the seven sisters, and they were relentlessly being pursued. And they were trying to save themselves from being violated, from being raped by the being known as Apollo. So what Zeus did, Zeus said to them, I will help you. I will turn you into doves. which is what he did. So and Zeus, instead of saying, Apollo, this is inappropriate behavior to these goddesses, to these divine feminine force, instead of saying, Apollo, this is inappropriate behavior, stop, he continued, allowed the chase to continue, but transformed the seven sisters into doves. Okay, so this story is an encoded story of letting us know that the Pleiadian consciousness is too enslaved, okay, by the we'll just call them the pantheon, the powers that be, because these pantheons, these are descendants of other beings. You know, the whole Zeus, Apollo, Mercury, you know, all these gods and goddesses, these are descendants of the previous rule. The rule before them, it was the Titans, and before them, it was the Marduk and Enki and Tiamat. You know, the story of the original creator beings. So these are tiers of beings. Oh, okay. Tigger chimes in and says that they thought it was Orion. Yeah, yeah, could be. I mean, I remember it the way I remembered it, and who knows if that's actually the accurate thing, because, you know, our memories are not necessarily the most reliable thing. But the point is that there is a god, being considered a god, that was relentlessly pursuing the seven sisters. That's the main part of the story. So that is encoding, telling us that they too are enslaved to this power over dynamic. And there's different degrees of enslavement. Sorry, I left that part out. So there's different degrees of enslavement here. Alpha Centauri is enslaved through the Akashic field. Different vows, promises, treaties, agreements, stuff like this, contracts. And then the Pleiadians are enslaved, just not all Pleiadians, but these certain groups of Pleiadians are enslaved within another sort of control system field. Another soul group that's considered enslaved are ones from Orion, the Alpha Draconis. Now, a lot of people would consider the Alpha Draconis as they are the slave masters, right? And there is a version of the narrative where they are the slave masters. But there's also this other narrative where they too are enslaved, along with the Zeta Reticuli, who are also from Orion. Both these soul groups are enslaved by a highly advanced TI being, TI/AI being, okay? So that is also an example of a narrative about an enslaved soul group. Okay. And of course, people believe that all the beings incarnating in Earth are enslaved as well. The enslavement of this planet, though, is different than those other versions of enslavement. And the reason why is because our enslavement is more on the level of the fourth dimensional field. It's not in the Akasha necessarily. Some things are in the Akasha, but not like how it is with Alpha Centaurians. It's more of the collective fields. There's so many inceptions happening in the collective fields. It blinds us, and in that way we're not able to make real choices. And so in that way, that's how we're enslaved. It's like we're told door A, this is your choice, door 1 or door 2, right? And then we're blinded to any other option but those two options. And these options are a rock and a hard place. So it's not really any option at all. So in that way, we get tricked into participating in our own limitations, participating in our own enslavement. Okay. But actually, speaking of Lost Girl, this is one of the things I really loved about her character, was she's like, well, just because door number 1 and 2 is there doesn't mean I'm going to do that. She gave herself permission to invent her door number 3. She always invented whatever it was that was true to her versus going with the program, which is one of the brilliant things about that show.